So you can make the decision to teach yourself how to play, but you still got to get it from somewhere, right? I mean, you've made the choice to not go to school or take any formal lessons with anyone. That's fine, but you still have to get it from somewhere. So I'm just going to tell you how I decided to do it, like my whole process and teaching myself. Because if this is how you want to do it, this is exactly how you can do it. As a matter of fact, these days, it might be a little bit easier to do. So I bought my first kit when I was 17 years old. But I've kind of always had the ability to play for some reason. By the time I sat down and played my first set of drums, which was, I think it was at my friend's house. He had a white Tama kit, and it was my first time sitting around a set of drums. And it wasn't really foreign to me. I kind of already knew what to do. Like I didn't have to learn what to do with the left foot and with the right foot or whatever. Bare bones, I didn't have any technique. I probably didn't sound good at all at the time, but the groundwork was there. So by the time I got my first kit when I was 17, I already knew how to set it up and how to make my way around it. And then the first thing that I did, and you've heard me mention this in other videos, the first thing I did was just start playing along to music. So I would just put on a lot of CDs and just play along to music. Didn't care what it sounded like, didn't matter to me at the time. I was just having fun hitting stuff. But that was my first 3 years of teaching myself how to play, was just hacking it out without caring really what it sounded like. I knew later on it would become defined as I went along, but in the beginning it doesn't really matter. You're expected to suck in the beginning, so don't worry about that. So so the next step was now getting to the point where I really wanted to learn what was going on. So the most important thing that I did, the most important part of my learning at home was investing tons of dough into instructional DVDs. After my first 3 years of playing, I got to a certain point where I was pretty good. Now it was time to start picking things apart and tightening up the screws. So I went out and I started buying instructional videos. And this was later 80s kind of thing. DCI music, I think it was called. It's now Hudson Music. At the time it was DCI. And they started coming out with all of these instructional videos, ironically, by all of my favorite drummers. So, you know, Weckl was the first one, and then Dennis Chambers came out with a couple of videos, Peter Erskine. Like everybody was doing these really cool DCI videos. Steve Gadd had a couple. In Session was one. I think I had Close Up, which I think you can still buy off of Hudson Music. But that's what I did. That was a super important step. I think if I didn't decide to do that, there's no way I would have gotten as far ahead as I did. So that was the next thing, was just investing money in instructional videos, DVDs, stuff like that. These days, it's a lot easier because there's YouTube, right? You can find anything on YouTube now. Sometimes you got to weed out the crappy ones because, I mean, to be honest, there's dudes on YouTube that are teaching that probably shouldn't be. But there's a lot of really valuable information. And it's easy to find what you want to learn now. It's all free. So that would be my biggest piece of advice to you. If you're deciding to go that way, you can still buy these instructional DVDs. They're still coming out with them. Hudson Music has the best selection for instructional content. Or you can just jump on YouTube and just hop in that rabbit hole and just start learning stuff like crazy. The most important aspect of your own pursuit in your education that will determine your success on this instrument will be motivation. You have to stay motivated if you're going to get anywhere with this. If you're going to stay at home and learn how to play, you're not going to have any lessons, formal lessons with anyone, you got to stay motivated. So for me, I didn't have any problem at all staying motivated because every single drummer that I seemed to get into was showing me something else that I used to think was impossible to do on the kit. So the DVDs just led to introducing me to new artists, right? For instance, if I never got into Dennis Chambers, I never would have discovered John Scofield. Got into John Scofield and then started reading the credits and recognizing the musicians that played on these albums. That led to me getting into Mike Stern. I got into Mike Stern, that's when I discovered Peter Erskine. Tracing Peter Erskine's career, that's when I traced it back to Weather Report. It's just a big, bunch of different avenues, discovering different music, discovering different drummers. And all of that stuff kept me motivated because I eventually just ended up wanting to play like all these guys. So it was easy to stay motivated and want to get better and finding out that this dude had a DVD and running out to go get it, things like that, right? So motivation is going to be the key to your success on this thing if you decide to teach yourself how to play. One of the biggest benefits for me in teaching myself was that I found anyway, that it was easier for me to develop my own identity in what I do here. Just kind of develop my own voice because you're listening to so many different drummers and it's like a buffet, right? You're picking techniques from this guy and this guy and this guy, and then you're borrowing a bit of this dude's personality and all that kind of stuff. And it eventually just becomes your own sound, right? And I think that's one of the cool benefits of being self-taught, because you don't end up, like if you end up studying with one particular person for a long time, there's a, it's not really a danger, but the potential is higher that you're going to start to take on that drummer's personality. You know what I mean? You're going to learn, because he's going to teach you everything he knows, and you're going to end up wanting to do it the way they do it. And to focus on one dude for that long is just not something I wanted to do. So I think that's one of the coolest benefits of teaching yourself how to play is just developing your own personality on the kit. Another important aspect of learning how to play on your own is your drive stays up here, or at least it should. For me, I never got tired of this. I've been playing 25 years to date anyway, and I've never once lost enthusiasm. Drums has always been exciting to me. It never got boring. And sometimes, if you're sometimes taking lessons on a schedule on a weekly basis, unless you really love your teacher, which happens, obviously, but I didn't want it to seem like something I had to do. So when I went down and practiced for 6 hours, it's because I wanted to go down and practice for 6 hours. And I did that for a long time. And it was just because of my, my enthusiasm and my determination to get better on the drums. Now, the things that you learn in schools, universities, stuff like that, a lot of the things that they teach in these schools typically could be learned from a book if you did your research and wanted to pursue that on your own. You don't necessarily have to be sitting in the classroom to learn a lot of the stuff that's taught in those things. I mean, there's books on everything now. So, going to classes and stuff like that, there are definitely benefits too, obviously, to going to places like Berkeley or whatever. There's a lot of things that are important in that, aspect of education. The hands-on thing is a big thing. The camaraderie is another thing, because you end up hanging around with certain musicians of a certain caliber, and you guys all motivate each other and all that. It's just a really cool kind of thing. There's a great story about Vinny and Steve Smith, how they were both studying with, I think it was Gary Chafee. There's a story. But they both were just kind of going back and forth. And the big thing at the time was, they were battling it out on like who could play the fastest ride beat, who could play the fastest swing cymbal between the two of them. And the two of them, if you could imagine, friggin' Steve Smith and Vinny Colaiuta going back and forth, trying to play the fastest ride beater and stuff like that. You know what I mean? The camaraderie that happens in school, like I've seen it. I got a lot of friends that go to Humber up here, or that have gone to Humber anyways, up here in Toronto. And there's a cool circle that kind of happens in that environment. You'll miss that if you decide to go on your own. Other things too, like there's specialty classes like composition and things of that nature. So you might end up missing out on things like that. But I mean, if you wanted to become a monster reader, you don't necessarily have to go to school to become a monster reader. I know guys that have become great readers in university, and I know other guys that have become great readers on their own, right? So, benefits to both, but teaching yourself how to play is not, there's no real downside. It kind of balances out, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no real downsides to teaching yourself how to play. Another great benefit of learning how to play is that you can expose yourself to whatever style of music or however many styles of music as you want. You're not restricted to learning jazz for 6 months or, whatever, however long the semesters are. You can pursue whatever type of music that you want. You can research the drummers of your favorite bands. You can find out if they have instructional material and just go out and get it. And the same level of drive and determination that it takes to get through a university course is the same work you're going to put into it when you're at home, right? So in that respect, the only thing that's different is the environment. The quality of the content, the benefits of the content, it's all the same. If you can get to the end of that and know the same stuff that this dude knows, then, there's no downside to that. So if teaching yourself how to play the drums is something that you want to do, that's the decision that you've made, more power to you, man. It's a lot easier to do these days than it was when I was coming up. That's for sure. And the fact that you're sitting here watching this video right now is just another part of you wanting to advance, your own pursuit on this instrument. So play to lots of music, go out, do your own research, get your hands on as much material as you can, instructional material, sit on YouTube, buy books, go to clinics, all of this stuff, man. All of this stuff will have big effects on your success on this thing. Make sure you keep your motivation up. Keep watching your favorite drummers, pursuing your favorite drummers, and you will achieve greatness on this instrument.